All right. So I was thinking about. So here, let's just pause and have a little mid conversation before we start this level. Because
Good conversation to have on camera, but all right.
oh, you didn't record that? I thought you were recording it.
You said to turn it off.
No, I said let's stop. I meant let's not. Oh God.
You said pause here. Oh my God.
Pause us playing the game because we cannot talk and play this game at the same time.
I thought you said pause.
No. God damn it.
Oh God, we just had a super good conversation.
Oh well.
I thought you said pause here.
No, I meant let's pause.
You cut out. I can't hear you. Tim. I thought I was doing what you told me to do.
No. Because what happened earlier where you recorded like just absolutely nothing for 5 minutes?
Well, because I didn't want to move across the room, but you're like, oh, pause here. I'm like, all right.
God damn it.
Well, but all right. But seriously though, like I think we could recreate it pretty quickly. Not recreate it, but like because we mused through the stuff pretty quickly. So you were saying that your parents dated back in the 80s, like Pac-Man era, and what would it be like asteroids
I
and
have to like restart the game. It's telling me to restart the game.
Oh, I see. That's fine. My mom. See, the thing is that it's now that we're having this conversation the second time, I could fill in more details. Because my mom also played games during that time, and that's when she dropped off. So Centipede is my mom's favorite game. My dad does not game at all, but my mom has had some love for that as well. So the question that Tim had posed was, what is the perfect game?
My question was, so I was talking about like my parents dating in the early 80s, and one of the things that they did was go to the arcade and play games. Like Galaga was like their game, but like Miss Pac-Man, Asteroid Centipede, all that kind of stuff. But that was really all that. It never went any further than that. Because,
and you also got to remember that like they were much simpler then as well. It was a stick and a button, if there was a button at all.
Right, yeah, but I'm saying also at that time, like the NES was a toy.
Yeah.
It was marketed to children as a toy. Mm-hmm. So when they get married and have their own kids, like it's not like it is today where they're like, oh, we're going to go home and play, Super Mario Brothers. Because like this is for kids.
Yeah, because it can't do streaming TV, doesn't any of that stuff, yeah.
Right, and so they just still have that mentality, I guess, where I mean, I've been playing games for like 30 years now, so I don't know. Maybe they still think I'm a man child, but so, anyways, so their like last exposure really to games with me sitting in the living room playing them was the Sega Genesis, possibly the Nintendo 64. But I feel like by the time I got a PS2, like I had a TV in my bedroom, and so I would just go to my room and play games. So I don't think they were really watching and paying attention to anything. And I remember like trying to show them the Wii and everything, and they didn't care.
My parents were much more, I don't know if supportive or maybe I was just intruding, but like I went all the way to the Wii on the family room TV. It wasn't until I got like a PlayStation 2 and I started playing Grand Theft Auto that I took the games into my room.
Yeah. But they so really like Sega Genesis N64 was like the last time that they like probably actively sat there and watched someone play a video game.
Yeah.
So I was talking about if I showed them like The Last of Us Part 2 or God of War Ragnarok, would it just like completely like blow their minds? Like, holy shit, this is a video game?
Yeah.
And
your grandfather was
my father-in-law
excuse me.
He passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, but he liked old like John Wayne, like Western movies and stuff like that. And if like he had sat down and watched me play like Red Dead Redemption 2, if that would have just been like the greatest thing he had ever seen. Like you're like playing an old Western movie.
You are in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So that line of thinking, like showing someone who hasn't been exposed to games in a long time what video games look like now, what would be the perfect game for someone
To play.
like that to play.
Not show, but play.
Not show, but play, yeah.
Because my dad,
So-
I had mentioned that, like, my dad loves Dead Rising. Not because he's good at it, but he loved watching me play it because it was, like, invested in the story, and he liked the action. So, like, he's into it, but he can't play it himself.
Right.
So my
my wife is like that too. Where I mean, she's not a gamer by any means. She's played a few games with me over the years, but like there are some games that like she really likes to watch me play. Like for the longest time, like Skyrim was like her favorite game of all time, and just like sat there for hours watching me play that. And then like God of War 2018, when they like rebooted that series, like she loved that game and everything, but like for her to like sit down and play God of War like would never happen because
she uses you as the vessel. Now when you were playing those games, is she like ooh go, like did she make you go do stuff or did she just let you drive?
No, yeah, she just lets me drive, and she also hates RPG mechanics and like shops. So like when I would play Skyrim, like I would like avoid like going to shops and like buying and selling stuff because she hated that. So like when she was like not around, then I would go like sell all my shit because like she's like, oh, this is boring. Like go shoot spells at dragons and stuff.
Okay, I get you.
So I was thinking like, what would be the perfect game? Because like obviously, like I mean, not saying that she couldn't, but
that's not something you don't go straight into Marvel versus Capcom 3. Right, like, that's not gonna work for them. Okay,
because I've noticed, so I've noticed in like the games that she has played with me, like one of her biggest issues is being in a 3D environment and having to control the character and the camera at the same time.
And this is where I had interjected at the time, because I had a section about this when I was teaching game design class at my previous school. Wherein if a person, and there was this article that I read, the reason the Wii was so commercially successful is because it eliminated an extra challenge that non-gamers have to deal with, which is when you are playing a game and you have never played one before or haven't played one in a while, you are challenged not only by the game itself, but by trying to translate your thoughts into the game's environment via the controls, which you are fighting actively.
Right. And especially with controllers nowadays where there's like
60 million buttons.
60, yeah, right.
Right. If it was like, the NES where it had like 2 buttons and, a cross pad, well, maybe that's fine. But not so much, the N64 controller onward is probably a bit too much.
Right.
So I, going from that line of reasoning, and also just going from the experience that I had with my mom, my mom loved Wii Sports. She loved Wii Bowling. There's actually many different games on the Wii that she enjoyed because she didn't have to fight the controls. It was just her swinging something around.
Right. So what you're doing what you want the character to do, which is very just intuitive.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know if you know that a lot of even today. Retirement homes are using VR and Wii's because it's a avenue of activity that non-gamer, elderly are able to grasp onto pretty quickly.
Right.
So they're very common in retirement homes. Yeah. I would say either Wii Sports or maybe Beat Saber set on no fail and like cut in any direction mode.
Right. Yeah, so when I was thinking, like, I wasn't even thinking about motion controls and like how that's just intuitive. So my thinking was like with my wife is like how much she like has trouble with 3D environments, specifically when you do have to control the camera yourself. Yeah. That it would have to be something 2D, and I think like a perfect game in general is like Tetris. Yeah. Like anybody. You hand them Tetris for 30 seconds and they understand what the game is and how to play it. You might not be great at it, but it's very easy to pick up and understand what's happening.
I would even say you could even go like some mobile games would probably be like easy enough. Not necessarily easy, but like because you're touching, you're using touch,
right
on the iPad.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're counting, I mean, obviously those are video games, but like if you're counting those as video games, then yes, anything. I mean, and that would be, and that's similar to like the Wii and VR thing, where it's just very intuitive. Like you're sliding your finger across what you're, you're touching what you want to touch. But so my line of thinking with as far as the 2D stuff was Tetris or like Mario Brothers, where in the first level of Mario, like it teaches you how to play the game.
Right.
Like there's a Goomba right there, and if you touch it, you die. So what do? You have to jump over it. And even if you don't understand the concept of like running and jumping on enemies, it teaches you to avoid touching enemies. And then you like hit your head on a block, and a mushroom comes out, and then so it just like in the first level, it teaches you how to play the game. And while it does get hard, it's still, I think, one of those that's like super easy to just pick up, and after a couple minutes, like you understand what you're doing.
I might add on to this Katamari Damacy, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, any game that doesn't, and I haven't really played any of the Katamari games. Like, is there a fail state to that?
Some levels. So you have to roll up enough stuff in the amount of time. Right. And then there's some levels that are like, Ursa Major, I think, was in the first game, where you had to get the biggest bear you could possibly get. So the first bear that you pick up turns into the star. And actually, there's no way to fail that one, I think. It just, the star is bigger and bigger and bigger, the bigger bear that you pick up, so.
Right. So yeah, so any game that doesn't have a, like, fail state to it would also be...
Well, you could... maybe not necessarily a fail state. I think the most important thing is time. So we talked about how RPGs, I think certain older RPGs would be good because you are allowed to sit there and think. It's not about reaction. So we actually recorded Dokapon Kingdom today, and I've played that with my mom, and she loves it because it's not... all the decisions that have to be made can be made at the leisure of the player.
Right.
So somebody who's fumbling with controls, the game's going to wait for you to do what you need to do. So it's like, take your time, figure out where you want to move and what you're trying to do. And the action that happens is not so fast. It's simple. You take a number from your number, and that's the less, a smaller number. Like your HP goes down, or, you've lost a number of spells, that kind of thing. So it's paced properly. So like Plants vs. Zombies is a game that a lot of non-gamer people can play, but my mom couldn't handle it because it's too fast even for her. She couldn't do it fast enough.
Even though that's a game that is easy enough to pick up and understand, there is still a like time limit element to it because like the zombies are coming. So so while it is a strategy and given enough time, she could certainly figure it out. It's the pressure of the clock ticking that is causing her to not know where to put her walnut and stuff like that.
Yep. Maybe Inscription might be a good game as well. It's a little difficult with a lot of stuff going on, I guess. But it's a card game, so I guess any card game, technically.
Yeah. But I mean, the RPG would be a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of terminology that you would have to explain to them, like HP, MP, staying at an inn, all that kind of stuff. But like Dragon Quest, or I think Final Fantasy 1 through 3, because I think 4 was where they started having the ATB gauge. But so any game that you can sit there as long as you want and figure out, okay, do I want to attack? Do I want to cast fire? That kind of thing. So, but I do think I wasn't even thinking about motion controls, and I do think like Wii Sports is probably the right answer.
What about Super Hot?
Super Hot.
Super Hot VR.
Right. Yeah. I need to finish that. I feel like I'm very close to the end, and so that again is a intuitive body. Like you can take as much time as you want because nothing happens until you move. But that is also a very
intensive game.
and yeah, like you're going to be sweating like after like 2 levels. So maybe that wouldn't be the first one, but I mean, following along the intuitive, like yeah, I understand the thinking, but also that is kind of a pretty intense game.
Well, yeah, like not only the physicality, but like visually, I think that's also pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, those are some good. What a good conversation.